Hi everybody, I'm Ginny Erickson, a broker with Windermere Port Townsend, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about living in Port Townsend, Washington. Okay, not everything. But if you are considering moving to this part of the country, then you'll want to pay attention because I'm going to tell you 10 things you should be asking about, as well as a few things you may not think to ask about, but should. Where exactly is Port Townsend? And is it too remote? Port Townsend sits on the northeastern tip of the Olympic Peninsula. It is surrounded on 3 sides by water, so yes, it is a little bit isolated. But it's not that remote. It's only about 2.5 hours away from Seattle, and it's a pretty easy trip to get to the city. But if you're like most people, you won't take that trip regularly. Instead, you will plan ahead. And if you have an appointment that can't be changed, like a plane to catch or a doctor visit, you're going to want to plan ahead to account for traffic, bridge closures, and ferry delays. Question number 2, what is the weather really like? The weather here is coastal. We have gray days in the winter and absolutely fabulous sunshine all summer long. Now this is because of a weather phenomenon known as a rain shadow. Port Townsend sits in the heart of the rain shadow, and the rain shadow is a phenomenon that I talk more about in another video called What the Heck is a Rain Shadow? So please be sure to check that out. But bottom line, our weather is pretty fabulous. We only get about 18 inches of rain a year. Not only that, the weather here is really mild. Summertime highs in the 70s, wintertime lows in the 40s. So we're still coastal, we still have some gray days, but brighter and drier than the rest of Western Washington. Question number 3, why does Port Townsend feel so unique? Well, there are 2 reasons: people and history. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that Port Townsend was once destined to be the major seaport in the Northwest back in the 1880s. But the railroad had a different idea, ended its run in Seattle, and the Port Townsend boom went bust. But the investments remain, the grand architecture, the beautiful buildings, they stayed, but slowly people left. Over time, people started to return. People who are writers and artists and sailors and entrepreneurs and independent thinkers, and of course, retirees. These are the people who just like the town the way it is, quirky and all. Question number 4, what is daily life in Port Townsend actually like? It's simple, walkable, local, quirky, and definitely fun. You can grab coffee, run an errand, go to a shop, run into your neighbor, walk on the beach. It all happens. Question number 5, what kind of homes are there? I love this question. And when I first started working as a realtor, one of the older agents in the office told me that there were 2 types of homes in Port Townsend, Washington: old and older, and weird and weirder. Now, that's not exactly true, but I tell this story for a reason. And the reason is that this is a really small town and inventory here can be very limited. And yes, because we have a lot of old Victorian homes, a lot of the homes need work. Now, as I said before, this is a retirement community. And what often happens is that people move here when they're in their, say, 60s. And they buy a place, they fix it up, it looks absolutely fabulous. And then when they're in their late 80s or 90s, it's time to put the home on the market. But it hasn't been touched in like 20 or 30 years, so they definitely need upgrades. Of course, that's not every house. We have charming, beautiful, grand old Victorians. We have quaint cottages. We have some new builds, and they're all perhaps move-in ready. But they're few and far between, those gems. And so if you want that perfect house, you need 2 things. You need patience, waiting for it to come up for sale, and you need the ability to act quickly when it does. Question number 6, what are the neighborhoods really like? Well, in Port Townsend, the neighborhoods are more like geographic areas, but still each one has its unique advantages and charm. For example, downtown is walkable. Uptown is historic. close in and highly sought after. Morgan Hill offers that elevation and the grand views of the Strait and the Sound. North Beach has 5 miles of long, walkable beach. Cape George is known for sunsets, and believe me, they're spectacular. And Cala Point offers privacy, lovely homes, and the kind of amenities that come with community living. Now, where you end up really depends on what you're looking for, but if you're out of town and you see something you like, I'm happy to do a video tour for you, so please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to help. Question number 7. What is the lifestyle like, and will I be bored? The answer is no, unless you happen to be boring. I'm sorry, there is so much going on here. There's festivals every weekend. There's a farmer's market twice a week. There's all kinds of things going on and all kinds of opportunities to get involved and to volunteer. If you really want to know more about what lifestyle's like, I urge you to listen to the podcast. It's called Rain Shadow Living, your guide to Port Townsend Swim and beyond. We go into all the activities and events and cultural things happening in and around the peninsula. I think it'll give you a really good idea of what the lifestyle is like. Question number 8, what about healthcare and services? Well, Jefferson Healthcare is located right in Port Townsend. It's a small community hospital, and there are also several clinics surrounding it. And they're really, really good for day-to-day activities and emergencies, checkups, whatever you need. I can speak personally. I had an attack of appendicitis about a year ago and had to go to the emergency room, and I can honestly tell you that the care I received was absolutely outstanding. But for some specialties, you may need to go to Seattle, to a bigger hospital. So that's just the way it is here, and you can check out what services are offered at Jefferson Healthcare by checking out their website. It's the same thing with services, like if you need something highly specialized, chances are you're going to have to drive to Poulsbo, Silverdale, Sequim, or maybe even Seattle. So you can get what you need here, but sometimes to get what you really want, you're gonna have to make the drive. Question number 9, who moves here? Well, I can tell you, it's people who value the outdoors, people who cherish a slower pace of life, and people who just really like Port Townsend just the way it is. Yes, we have a lot of retirees. The median age in Port Townsend is 56 years old, and that's much higher than the national average, which I believe is around 39. So who exactly moves here and what do they do for a living? Well, we have a lot of remote workers, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creatives, a large number of people who work in the maritime industry, and then there are a lot of people who are like me. They come for a visit, they look around, they see the place, and they realize that this place feels like home. There's also one more group of people you should know about, and these are the people, they grow up here, they go to college, they travel the world, and then move back. Because when it comes to Port Townsend, there's no place like home. Now, if you're still seriously thinking about moving here, stay with me. You're gonna wanna hear the answer to this last question. Question number 10, what are the downsides? By now you get it, Port Townsend is pretty wonderful, but it's not for everyone. What are the downsides? Well, the first one is cost of living. It is higher than the national average, and that's largely driven by housing costs. The average home price in Port Townsend these days is close to $700,000. So if you're a first-time home buyer or on a fixed income, that can be a tough number to hit. Yes, there are jobs here, but they tend to be remote workers, entrepreneurs. If you're looking for that corporate job with a career ladder, you might be better off looking in Seattle. Third is convenience, and we've talked a lot about that in this video. If you're one of those people that really likes visiting shopping malls, then Port Townsend is probably not for you. Next is housing stock, and we've talked about this before as well. Many of these beautiful, old, charming Victorian homes come with a need for upgrades, maybe an electrical upgrade or foundation repair. And that might be a project that's just too big for you to take on. Of course, not every house is in that condition, so you have to have the patience to look. But just be aware, if you're looking for an old Victorian, you want to look really closely and make sure you know what you're getting into. The fifth downside is winter. Yeah, it's gray here. The days are shorter and darker than they are in so many parts of the United States. Some people absolutely love it. They cozy up in front of the fire and they say it's all higgy and everything. But if you're one of those people that needs sunshine year round, you may look into becoming a snowbird, or you might want to just forego the Northwest after all. And finally, it's a small town. Now, that may sound really intriguing, but the problem with small town life is that even if you don't know what you're doing, chances are your neighbors do. That's a joke, of course, but people who love living in a small town absolutely treasure that, and other people get a little claustrophobic. So whether or not Port Townsend is right for you really depends on what you are looking for and what you need. So there you have it. Everything you need to know about living in Port Townsend, Washington. Or at least the answers to 10 questions you should ask before you move here. If after watching this video you're still interested in moving to Port Townsend, Washington, give me a call. I'm always happy to help.